If you wonder why I missed last week's upload, I'm on a quest to become 6 feet tall. What's good everyone on YouTube? It's me again, back with another video. And yeah, missed last week's upload, but we're back again. And finally we've got something interesting on the horizon because we got a new shoe in today. And today we're talking about a Nike shoe, and this was part of the Space Hippie sort of like initiative or collection. So there were 4 silhouettes within this collection, and the brief that they had when creating this was this idea of life on Mars, no resupply mission, and making things out of the trash that you already have. And we've got the Space Hippie 1s, the 2s, the 3s, which everyone seems to be going crazy for, but I think they look pretty ridiculous. And the 4s, which, you know, a lot of people don't seem to be talking about, and Nike themselves seem to admit in a lot of their marketing. But today we've got, you've probably seen the thumbnail already, so without further ado, today we've got the Nike Space Hippie 1s in the 1 colorway, or the trash colorway, let's call it that. So yeah, with the intro out of the way, let's get into the box. So this whole theme around this sneaker is supposed to be like sustainability and like recycling materials, and they kind of go all out with that idea, including the packaging as well. So we've just got this nondescript cardboard box. It really isn't that special. We've only just got some of this Nike like official stuff on the bottom. And from what I've been hearing, if you're buying these shoes from Nike directly, they actually ship the shoes by taping this box. So they don't double box it, this is the actual shipping box. Cool idea on paper, but like, I guess as someone who likes to collect and keep his boxes, like I don't really like that. But, you know, for the cause, it's pretty interesting. But then on the inside, we've actually got this really interesting branding all over the shoe, all over the box. So we've got Nike written on the tab, we've got Space Hippie written in this cool font, and some other stuff, and Nike Trash Transformed. And it's pretty cool. I'll show some B-roll of some of the more specific details on it. And actually here we've got a bit where that says Nike Space Hippie 1, 2, and 3, but they don't mention the 4s, which is really interesting. And apparently, I read this up, the ink that they use is plant-based, so, you know, don't feel too bad that they're using ink. And then included inside, we actually get this really thin mesh tote bag. And from what I've read, that this tote bag is also made of the same sort of like recycled material. And then we've got the Nike Pinwheel logo on the left-hand side, and then we've got Nike Space Hippie written on the side, and we've got Nike Space Hippie 1, 2, and 3, and again, the 4 doesn't seem to exist. And that's about it. There was no paper, no nothing, no extras. It's literally just the shoe, the tote, and that's it. And if we read to the side, it reads Nike Space Hippie 01, or Space Hippie 1. So, the retail price on these. In Australia, the Space Hippie 1s retail for a price of 190 Australian dollars. I won this off a raffle and had to pay 30 shipping, so it came to $220 in total for me. I'll put the conversion here. And for $220, it's actually one of the cheapest silhouettes out of the collection, and I actually think it's probably my favorite. So I was really happy to win the raffle, and yeah, just nice to have these. So with the box out of the way, let's get into the shoes. And here we are, the Nike Space Hippie 01s in the trash colorway. Let's call it the trash colorway. So just looking at the upper itself, the upper color seems to be just this like heathered gray material. And from what I've read, this upper is supposed to be 80 to 90% recycled materials. This includes some old garments, plastic bottles, unused yarn and whatnot. And you can really notice this when you look up close. So from a distance it has an overall grey tone, but if you look up really closely you can see little speckles of different colours, and I'm assuming this is because of the recycled material they're using. In terms of how it feels, this upper feels mostly like traditional Flyknit, so it's really sturdy, pretty scratchy, and it doesn't really stretch that much, except for around the tongue area. Since it's a one-piece upper, they make this tongue area a lot stretchier. And going on the tongue area and the lacing system, they seem to use this like one piece of like black wire that runs along in this weird squiggly shape. And I actually think it's a pretty interesting way of doing the laces. And speaking of the laces themselves, I assume that they're using a bunch of different colors and materials for the laces, because we've got this really interesting multicolor lace on the shoe, and they're sort of tipped off with these like rubberized plastic fuse overlays. And then we've also got this white pull tab that runs down the front and the back of the shoe. And it says Nike on the side. We've got we've got 01 written on the bottom, and then we've got the Nike pinwheel on the back. And for branding, we've actually got this really high vis like orange that they've used, and it's sewn in, which I think is really cool. Normally they sort of just screen print this kind of thing, even on Flyknit material, which I always think looks really disgusting. But the fact that they've sewed it in actually makes it look really interesting. And if we look at the insole itself, so according to the website, the insole is actually made up of offcuts of Zoom X that have been fused together after the fact. So if you look closely at the insole, you can sort of see like very distinct bits and pieces of Zoom X, and it seems to be covered by like a clear resin that holds it all together. And then moving down to the midsole itself, they're calling this midsole a crater foam. And from what I understand, this crater foam is supposed to be made up of 15, I don't even know the numbers anymore, but like it's supposed to be 15% grind rubber. And grind rubber is all these like small little bits of like foam that they've actually just grinded up back into like a sort of like smaller sort of bits, and then just sort of thrown it in with the foam itself. And I really like the way that they've sculpted this midsole. It's got a really interesting chunky shape to it. And then moving to the outsole, the outsole itself is actually just the same rubber foam midsole that continues on to the bottom. So there are no rubber panels on this. And then actually around the midfoot of the shoe, you can actually see some of the Zoom X that's embedded in the shoe itself. So on top of the insole, we actually have Zoom X bits fused together inside the midsole itself. So that pretty much covers the main features of this particular shoe. In terms of sizing, I will say that this shoe seems to fit pretty much true to size, but it's quite a narrow fit. So I bought these in my true to size, and lengthwise they actually fit a tiny bit long, but widthwise they're actually really snug. So I would say just in general, for wide foots to normal feet people, you probably want to go true to size. For really narrow footed people, you may want to go half a size down, but I would do more research if I were you. So I'm a true to size 9.5 in most of my sneakers. I bought these in a 9.5 and they fit me pretty well. Now, in terms of comfort, just trying it on, I only got them today, just trying them on around the house. The first thing I noticed about this shoe is that it's actually very lightweight. So I assume this is because of the Zoom X material, because Zoom X is notoriously light. It's actually replaced a lot of the inside of the shoe, and it makes this shoe quite nice to wear. You don't really notice it on feet. However, when I first heard that there was Zoom X in this shoe, I did expect it to be more squishy. However, because Zoom X, it's been done in this sort of off-cut version with like with another fused material to put it all together, it doesn't squish quite as much as you think it would. It's still quite a nice soft ride, but it's definitely not Zoom X, as most people know it. But it's still pretty interesting, even though they have all this like bits of rubber running through the midsole, it's still quite nice. And then the upper itself, it's quite stiff, but it's very breathable, and it helps contain your foot really well. It's pretty easy to slip on, and then tying the shoe down, you actually get a pretty nice lockdown with this shoe. So overall, I would say this shoe, considering like it's mostly just trash, is surprisingly comfortable. Now I get to the part of the video where I talk about my opinions on this shoe. And leading to the release, I definitely thought that this was probably my favorite silhouette. To me, it kind of just reminds me a lot of like an Epic React, and an Epic React is a pretty nice silhouette overall. And I just really, I actually ended up being really drawn to this midsole and outsole setup. I really like the aesthetic that they've done with this like crater foam, where you can see the little bits of like excess rubber, as well as a bunch of air bubbles that they haven't sort of ironed out, I guess. It just gives it a really interesting like rugged look. And then the upper itself is really interesting with the high-vis orange swoosh, this squiggly black layer that holds the laces, and the laces themselves being multicolor. I just think overall it really fits this theme of like the space hippie kind of repurposed Mars life, I guess. Now, in terms of like wearing it in outfits, I will say it is definitely like a loud shoe, but I think this is the kind of shoe you wouldn't really wear to sort of like blend into the background. This is definitely a shoe you wear to stand out, and you know, for that purpose I actually think it's quite a special shoe. And for the cause, I actually think it's a really interesting purchase. If you could just buy it for retail, I'd definitely say jump on it. With that, we come to the end of another video. So I'd like to hear what you guys think of the Nike Space Hippie one in this trash colorway. And out of the 4 silhouettes, which were your favorites? So for myself, the ones were my favorites. The 4s would probably be second. The 2s actually look really cool on off feet, but on feet's a bit of an interesting story. And then the 3s, even though that seems to be the one that everyone's going for, I just think it's a little bit overdone. But that's just my opinion, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. So like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section down below. And if you're into more sneaker content, dance, vlogs, that sort of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Time for the on feet, and I'll catch you guys in another video.